welcome to Political Voice. I am Moses Humphrey. Now, first, let's serve you a roundup of the latest political news from around the world. Now, the United Nations Security Council has approved a multinational force to assist in Haiti as the Caribbean nation contends with widespread gang violence. The 15-member council voted overwhelmingly in favor on Monday, with 13 approving a Kenya-led mission to Haiti. The remaining two countries on the council, Russia and China, abstained, citing fears over Haiti's troubled history with foreign involvement. Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry has repeatedly requested international assistance over the past year as gang violence has skyrocketed, leading to ever-growing insecurity and a spate of vigilante reprisals. The UN estimates 5.2 million people, nearly half the population, currently require humanitarian assistance. Gang violence has displaced approximately 200,000 residents and killed 3,000 people this year alone, with 1,500 more kidnapped for ransom. Well, just last month, powerful gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Sherazia announced he planned to overturn Henry's government, sparking more fears about stability in that country. Let's go on to another country now. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has confirmed that he will stand for a third term in office at an election scheduled for December. The election, which al-Sisi is widely expected to win, comes as Egypt grapples with an economic crisis, a record inflation, a sharply depreciated local currency, and claims by the political opposition that its candidates are suffering harassment and intimidation. An estimated 65 million Egyptians are reported to be eligible to vote in the election, which will be held over 3 days from December 10 to 12. Egyptians living abroad will be able to cast their ballots on December 1 to 3. Well, lastly, bringing it home to Nigeria. In Nigerian matters, Anti-Graft Agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has initiated extradition proceedings to bring former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diezani Alison Madueke, back to Nigeria. Acting spokesperson of the Anti-Graft Agency, Dele Oyewale, confirmed the development to newsmen yesterday, which was Monday. The former oil minister had been arraigned on Monday before a Westminster court in London, United Kingdom, following bribery allegations. Well, although the corruption charges preferred against her at the London court are different from the charges the EFCC preferred against her in Nigeria, Oyewale said that the money laundering charges for which Diezani is answerable to the EFCC covers jurisdictions in Dubai, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and of course, Nigeria. And that's all for the roundup. Now to go to the main conversation for this morning. Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have suspended their proposed strike scheduled to commence today, October 3, that is today. Announcing the outcome of the meeting to State House correspondents, Minister of Labour and Employment Simon Lalong said that both NLC and TUC had accepted to suspend for 30 days the planned indefinite nationwide strike scheduled to begin today, Tuesday, the 3rd of October, 2023. The resolution followed more than 5 hours of deliberations between the federal government and Labour at the conference room of the Chief of Staff in the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Lalong said the memorandum shall be filed with the relevant court of competent jurisdiction within 1 week as consent judgment by the federal government. But NLC President Joe Ajero said the unions would revisit the agreement if the FG fails to fulfill its demands. Oh, well, I do have a guest with me in the studio. He's Moses Orisha Jolomi Adebayo. Together, he's an educationist and the public affairs commentator. And together we'll be looking at the now shelved strike, the shelved strike, the intent to embark on strike, and what must have transpired between the federal government and labor unions, TUC and NLC. Well, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Moses, and our ever-increasing listeners, watchers all over the world. Yes, still in the mood of celebrating, and that's why I want to be like you, the dopest, Moses.
Oh, I see. The green.
So
interesting.
That there are things to celebrate about the country. Well, sometimes I choose to see things from the half of all this magazine. Labor shelving their strike. Commendable because things are rough, and that's even an understanding right now. Things are really, really biting. Whichever sector you consider, transport, food, education, just about anything that make life or that constitute life. For them to have again acceded to government meeting?
Wage award, yes, the meetings.
I think it's commendable again. I say, for one, it will only have aggravated what is already bad, and we don't want that. Secondly, I commend them for one thing. I think Labour is restoring its glory of being really, really a group that government listen to. At the point they lost respect, they lost influence, they lost just whatever you call it, that they just do, as in their words don't resonate with both government and Nigerians. And you can trace that back to the stories of Pascal Bafia in the 80s, when he was always going to consult to the government of the day then. But they are going back to this of pie mode because labor issues go even before independence. You can trace it back to the 40s, where Michael Imodu, who is forever their legend when it comes to anything labor, he will play a part in our independence. So that I'm saying all this because we are saying within the ambience of independence. Labor should please ensure that they go back to those days when they can always call government, because yes, I know.
Okay.
Sorry, I know that the media, the fourth estate of the realm now, majorly have the constitutional role of bringing government to account. But Labour and Nigerians as well can collaborate with the media and ensure that government of the day are ever on their toes. Because when they get there, they seem to lose relevance. They seem to lose touch with everything Nigeria, and we can't afford to let them rest. The subsidy, we can't pretend, is really, really grievous on Nigerians right now. So what Labour is doing is to ensure that the government will, by virtue of their insistence, you hear government will always improve. It's now we're adding 25,000. Before the end of the day, they made it 35,000.
Now let me come to that. It's something to really deliberate on. Labour did complain that government had not been paying attention to them. They've been calling for meetings and they've been meeting empty chairs. NLC did complain that. They had a few meetings, and we know that at the beginning of this clamor for measures to cushion the effects of subsidy removal, we were talking about 200,000. You remember when Ramfac came out with a proposal to increase the salaries of lawmakers and also judicial office holders, and we were hearing about 114% increase was what was proposed, and Labour said, look, if that's going to be the case, then workers in Nigeria should get about 200,000 naira. Now, that conversation, we can't say for sure that we knew the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. And then the president made an announcement of 25,000 naira, and they had to bargain to 35. What do you make of that? Was Labour pushed to a corner where they couldn't take it further above that amount?
Truth is, at every point in time, we always have perception and reality. Reality is that not in the not in the remotest what do you call now times will you expect government to pay 200,000 naira. It's going to be a case of they will just keep bargaining. They'll keep going left, right, front, back, right, center, and until they get to a point where they know that it's going to be a win-win situation for both, because society is made up of government and the governed. The government on the one side, the governed on the other side. Though what I'm averse to is when we always make it this a case of we versus they, them versus us. No, we are all Nigerians now. I mean, our president, our governors don't come from Togo, they don't come from Eritrea. They are Nigerians like us. So what I just want Labour to maintain is this. As much as they should be reminding the government of what they should do, how they should be accountable to Nigerians in respect to labor and wages and all that make up life. They should not be partisan, because sometimes when you see that governments, or some, not even this government alone, when you see that even past governments tend to be lethargic to their demands, it's because they feel that this the labor has derailed. But let them remain, as in always reminding government of what they should do. And this, I think, Jero and his NLC counterparts, I can't remember them now, they are doing Festus Osifo, yeah, thank you.
Jero's NLC.
TUC. Now, I think they are doing a fairly good job for now. The fact that for every meeting they have with government, there's always a tangible result, a tangible response from government. We are never put in between. We are never put in a situation whereby what are they saying? They ensure that government, they say what we want to, as in they speak clearly.
But is this tangible? Is this tangible? The fact that the whole idea is to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy. Sure. But then 35,000 naira as it is it tangible? Will that cushion anything? The CNG buses, the availability of CNG buses, no time frame has been placed on it yet. Government says very soon.
Very soon. I heard from the grapevine, well, anyway, I don't want to speculate, but I heard that from November, thereabout, they may come with some of the CNG buses in their hundreds. But that till then, tangibility is relative. Because see, as I've said, let me now look at the government side, as in people, we the populace, we Nigerians, who are now in government, at any tier of government, whether local, state or federal. Don't forget that we are governed does not mean we all work for the federal government or state or local. So you now think of what happens to the private sector. Mm-hmm. What happens to other people who are gainfully employed, who pay their taxes, who pay their rates? Because we all go to the same market. I will always say, we ain't got an APC supermart, neither do we have a PDP fuel station. We all go to the same market, we all buy things from the same places. So if at any point in time the federal government decides to raise emolument, raise their wages, those at the state level will start asking, what happens to us? And inevitably, those at the private sector, so we ask. So there must be balance here. There must be balance. Otherwise, and you know, again, once we on the other side, still on the other side now, the government, we hear that, oh, there will be a kind of raise, whatever amount is, whatever percentage is, you know your landlord is thinking with you. Mm-hmm. That market woman is thinking alongside, and on and on. But it's what we see over time is that it's always a case of you are giving something with the left hand and they almost immediately collect with the right hand. So when you ask about how tangible is not the word for me now, how feasible with this 35,000, it's almost like a drop in the show, because as long as we still have this fuel subsidy still around, then whatever we earn may just be pittance. And that's not what we're asking for, because 35,000 naira in today's Nigeria, what would that really accomplish? Because it's said in the market, and I'm not unaware of what goes around. I take time to go around and ask. Maybe 40,000, 50,000 naira for a bag of rice. So if you still earn that, which means maybe your minimum wage, maybe the 35,000, if I had the president right on the first, it will be added to the minimum wage. If I go by that, that means then 10,000 minimum wage plus 5,000, which is 65,000 naira. Which, well, on the international stage, 65,000 naira right now will be just about a few hundreds of dollars. So you look at all this and you put it to yourself that, is it better? Well, half a loaf is better than nothing at all.
So that's the position Nigerians have gotten to, the workers in Nigeria. So. Half a loaf being better than none. Basically being beggars. Pardon? Basically being beggars. That's what it seems.
You are sounding extreme. No.
Oh, that's extreme.
At the risk of sounding like a government spokesperson. No, I'm not sounding like that. But as I've said, I'm considering the fact that If it comes down to just federal workers, good for them. What about state workers? Anyway,
Now, this is all it's a good thing that you mentioned state workers as well. We know that when the minimum wage was pegged at 30,000 naira, some states have not been. Some states
as we speak, yeah,
are still unable to pay. So now, do you expect those states to pay an additional 35,000 naira on a 30,000 naira that they have not even paid? Now, that also brings us to brings to the fore the question of the 5 billion given to states. We hear that an initial 2 billion was paid. What that has been used for, we cannot readily say. I mean, the information of that is not on our fingertips.
You know what, Moses? When it
So
comes
is NLC asking the wrong questions?
No, they are not. No, they are not. Not by
proposing
any means.
the
Not
wrong
by any means.
things.
Not by any means. In fact, as a matter of fact, right now, they are about the only agency that will keep reminding government of. When you hear the president give a speech, you can tell that whatever he's saying comes by virtue, it comes as a response to what NLC is doing. That's why I say NLC seem to be restoring their own glory, where they now command attention, where they speak and you will listen to them. Unlike just a few decades back, under, I don't want to mention him, Waba and like, he doesn't command much respect. But they are making their voices heard, and on behalf of Nigerians. But then you still look at it that it's only a degree of Nigerians that will be affected. The states, when it comes to the federating units, they are always going to be the weakest link. 30,000 naira was proposed, agreed upon by the Buhari government then some 3 years ago as minimum wage. As we speak, not up to 15 states can pay or pay up to 30,000 per month. Some say pay.
Can pay.
As in, some don't even, to say can pay, some don't even pay. They still, they are stuck with the 18,000 naira minimum wage. That's over a decade plus now. That's what they still pay. Though some states go about telling the world that they pay this and that, but that's by the way. For states that can't even pay up to 30,000, do you expect them to now pay additional 35,000 naira? It's almost like a phantom. It's almost like a maddening. But what I say is this. You know, across Nigeria, we sometimes erroneously gauge the pulse of Nigeria using just a few cities, and it's not very fair. You consider the fact that, oh, everything that happens in Nigeria must be seen from the prism of the lens of Lagos. No, it's not true. Lagos, yes, on the high side. I was somewhere 3 weeks ago within the southwest, and living condition there is still a bit fairer, not as harsh. They are feeling the effect of subsidy, no doubt about that, but you can still tell. You know, years back or even decades back, there are some things I would normally buy when I had business to still go to school around the places. I saw a loaf of bread, 500 naira in that part of the country. I was wondering that this would easily sell for 900,000 naira in Lagos. I hope you're getting my analogy. So over there, life still seemed a bit bearable. A friend of mine told me recently, he just located to a 3-bedroom flat. And comparatively, I know what obtains here in Lagos. And when he told me how much he paid, I was thinking, are you for real? He said yes. In fact, at the point in time, because I was so doubtful, he sent his the receipt and everything that had to do with the accommodation to me. I couldn't believe my eyes. So sometimes we aeronauts have said, compare what obtains. Other states that they pay them less than 30,000, which I'm not an advocate of, but they still get to bear with life by virtue of how things are there, not as exorbitant as we have in Lagos. Lagos is so metropolitan that once I read out that even they compare, let me take movie makers now. You are told that any movie that comes or gets into New York today, before 24 hours, you get them in Lagos. You know what that means? They see Lagos like New York. They see Lagos like Shanghai, Beijing, like Tokyo. So that tells you that you can't afford to always compare Lagos with other places. Not excusing those state governors who don't generate anything, any revenue, only wait on Abuja every month. But then, 18,000, 30,000, and plus 35,000, if those states will pay, would go a long way in some of these states in Nigeria. But in some cities, it is almost pittance, almost nothing.
Well, the government also did say some money will be paid to 15 million households, 15 million poor households. I'm trying to get the exact figure now of what will be paid in addition to what was paid to the social.
Let me pause straight away. You know what? Even if they do that, and I go by the Babangida policy of 4 children per family, then that means if they pay 15 million household, let's say an average household has 4 children, not including the parents now, that means 60 million Nigerians. And the last report from the Bureau of Statistics told us that we have 133 million Nigerians in multi-dimensional poverty. Even if they pay 15 million household, that is roughly 60 million or thereabouts, what happens to the remaining almost 63 million? Would they be left to still wallow in poverty? Because all these palliatives, they even sound the same beggarly. You alluded to the 5 billion naira paid, though in part 2 billion to state governors. You have to see what transpired in some states. It was so ludicrous that you wonder, where is the human dignity? I think, look, government now at all tiers should be at the threshold. They should know that.
Now, why, sorry to interrupt you, why do you think that governors are not being questioned right now intensively as to how they have been using the 2 billion given to them to alleviate the sufferings of the people? Now, this is a measure that is supposedly going to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy on those that are not federal government workers.
With respect to what you just said now, okay, let's go back to the NSAS days when palliatives were given, distributed. What happened? You saw what governors did. Many of them hoarded them, as in what belonged to their state residents. They ensured that some of them even wanted to use it for political gains, what have you. So if they have such sorry antecedents, can we trust them now? No, you can't. No, you can't. They've always proven it's a governor. Take Ogun State, for example. The governor knew what to do with an errant local government chairman. Easily, he could get the security apparatus. But when it comes to protecting the greater good, the greater number of Ogun State citizens or residents, they'll tell you that they are not in charge of security. So they are always clever by half. They are about, as I've said, the weak when it comes to the tiers of government, the state governors and government. As a matter of fact, I will implore the press, the media, so more than ever before, beam satellite more on state governors. Because I remember when Godwin Akpabio, now the current Senate president, when he accepted to be the Senate president after he had been voted, he said something that if whatever we do at the federal level will count, then it is just natural that state governors work side by side. They work alongside. And that's always been the case. Some things that they do at the federal level end up as though they are winking in the dark. These guys, we can easily generalize, but sometimes intention on the federal part, really good. They even put the 5 billion the incursion they made, very commendable. But when it gets to the channel that should now make it available to others, at least to relieve us of this pain, this very, very unbearable pain, it gets missing. So media, I implore you at every point, whether it's print, electronic, or even the newest of media, social media, hold our state governors more responsible.
Now, I'm going to read an excerpt from the president's speech on October 1. Paragraph 15 reads, to ensure better grassroots development, we set up an infrastructure support fund for states to invest in critical areas. States have already received funds to provide relief packages against the impact of rising food and other prices. The president reiterated that states have already received funds. So, should the NLC now focus on the state chapters and ensure that the governors in these states implement, with the funds what they were set to implement in the first place?
I expect that coming from yesterday's meeting, where they agreed that they give the federal government another 30 days. That by now, Tony Ajero, Festus Osifo would have called all their state chapters. Now it's time for work. We must hold these people, even holding them at their jugulars would not even do something now. Hold them as though as you never held them before. Be so tenacious in holding. They should know that now it's well known to the world. The palliative, the support from all the federal angle has been met. At least they've come up with some things. The state, you can't be found wanting now. If what happened during SARS repeat itself, I don't want to sound alarmist, but we can't afford to throw the country into flames because of the ineptitude, because of the irresponsibility on the part of state governors. And these people, they brand themselves, when it comes to hounding political opponents, they act as emperors, like lions. But when it comes to what they swore to do, ensure that better life for our federating unit, they are always found wanting. I'm not sorry to say this because in 24 years of democracy, stable democracy, the state governors have ever been. They are terrors to their local government, their house in their state. They are equally terror to people that live in the state, and they don't even give the federal government any reason to enjoy serving Nigerians, because federal government, you consider sometimes, how many federal presidents do you have in an average state? 15%, 20%, because at the time I sat down, okay, the federal government presidents is all about maybe by virtue of their federal universities or polytechnic or their hospitals, teaching hospitals like that. Those are the only things you say about federal government, or the schools and hospitals. Apart from that, every other thing belongs to the state. So they hold more of our lives in their hands. But these are the tier of government that we hardly look at. When you hear the immediate past governor of what do you call now, Cross River State, bring this bogus, budget title, budget of meristhenic and all those stuff, you will never hear anyone. They go with the slogan, but at the end of the day, where is the performance? They don't hold them responsible. I'm really just as a metaphor. We hardly knock on their doors. So I expect that since yesterday, the state chapters of NLC, TUC will work assiduously to ensure that all that the state should do, they must do them. They must. Otherwise, there will always be a missing link. And whatever is intended, if for good, at the federal level, will never get to people. Will never. And we'll still be the one bearing the brunt. When all these elephants, if at all they fight, the grass will forever suffer. And the grass doesn't deserve to suffer because of elephants that should not fight. So the state governors should be, watch very carefully. Watch very carefully. And the media should report every step they take and ensure that Nigerians, our lives are. The palliative won't do it more, they won't do much. But at least, as I've said, I maintain half a loaf is better than none at all. And this half loaf is in the hands of the state government, our excellencies, the state governors. Let them act excellently in this manner.
All right, now to conclude on this now, the issue of palliative. A lot of pundits have opined that they have trouble with the word itself because it's supposed to be a temporal measure. And government is saying the longer lasting measures it will put in place would be fixing of the refineries, bringing in CNG buses and other things. What other measures do you think government should be looking at actually to forever pushing this sort of thing?
I am not averse to nomenclature. You can call it whatever, but it is, as they say, action speaks far louder than words. Call it anything, but does it live up to its billing? I opine from the one that if at all they call it intervention, palliative, cushioning, whatever, they should have been institutional. By that I mean, go to transport, subsidize for, you remove subsidy from fuel, then subsidize transport. Let it still make sense that Nigerians can go out and come back in one piece. If all you gain, if all you earn, as meager as they are, transport still takes 60-70%, then you have almost nothing left. And we have families, we have people to our lives to live, bills to pay. If they look at transport, ensure that food is subsidized, and they look at this going about with these beggarly schemes don't help anything. Rather, it makes us look even inhuman. As I've said, you possibly would have seen, of course, if you live in this country and I know you are vast, you are well, you know, understand what goes on around you. You see how very base some states have gone about distributing these palliatives. So I saw one particular state, is it Adamawa now, where some people just on some buses were throwing food stuff to people, and you need to see for every bag thrown, then as in it was so rowdy, so as in uncouth, you could see that at the end of the day, some people will leave there injured. The person will go there to get maybe 1 or 2 bags of rice, whatever, but they'll leave there bloodied, maybe in their nose, because it was just untidy. The palliative should have been a case of, let's bring in more buses. That's why those that are, I'm always, as I've said, I never had any horse in this race. Critics of government, of which I am one, did they really think out this removal very well? It's apparent all the more that it was hastily done. Otherwise, they would have put in some measures. Inevitably, subsidy must go because it has been a cesspool of a country pipe for corruption over the years. I had a story once. I almost wept. A young man was boasting out that they ain't got any office, yet they know how much they make every year because they are among the oil marketers, the cartel. They make money, dirty money, stinking money from subsidy. So to remove it is good, but removing it is a case of having a very, very tough effect on people. But did they think it very well? It's appearing as though they didn't really think it very well.
Okay.
But please, whatever has been put in place now, even if it was not well thought out, state governors, is incumbent on them to do what is right because they are closer to us. I don't get the only. I keep telling anyone that cares to listen. The only business I have with the federal most times used to be power. Now power has even been distributed as in the regulated. Maybe currency. Each time I spend in Nigeria, okay, I know state governors can't make currency. Maybe I go to the embassy for one or two things. Very few places I have to deal with federal government. Most times I deal more with the state governors or government every day of my life. So, and since that's the case, then they must have more impact on me than other tiers of government.
All right, then. This is a good place to anchor it today on the show. I must say very, very thank you to you, Moses Adebayo, for coming on the program. But that's it on Political Voice today. On behalf of the team, I say thank you very much for staying with us. Do well to follow us on social media, YouTube specifically. We are at Voice of the People TV and on other social media platforms. We'd love you to also follow us there. We are at VOP TV Live. I am Moses Humphrey. Have a lovely day.